The countdown is on. We're getting close, Suns fans. We're getting close. We are less than 1 month away from some preseason basketball and just over 1 month away until we get to see the Phoenix Suns and this new team on the court when it matters. 35 days away to be exact. Kevin Durant. For many of you, you might be listening to this podcast at a different time, and maybe it's Charles Barkley, 34 days away, or Alvin Adams / Grant Hill, 33 days away. I'm not going to do the whole countdown. You get the gist. We're getting close, Suns fans. So until then, we just got to bide our time, patiently waiting for this track to explode on. And hopefully that's what will occur when this regular season starts. This track will explode upon the NBA. You know it. I know it. The NBA knows it. And you're starting to see some people taking their shots at the sun. And I just want to remind everybody, it's okay. Get used to it. No need to go on the statistical rants of why to prove a point. No need to sit there and try to defend decisions that James Jones and Matt Ishbia have made. Let the Suns do the talking for you. Smile, nod, and if you're on Twitter, bookmark it. That way, when it's all said and done, you can go back to those bookmarks, and then you can be that asshole that you know you want to be. So welcome to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. My name is John Voida. I am one of your co-hosts and the managing editor of BrightSideOfTheSun.com. I'm bringing in Matthew Lissy, the second side of our podcast pod host. Oh, yeah, turn on your light, dude. Jeez.
Yeah, it's not even on.
It's not even plugged in. He's plugging it in as we go. There it is.
Whew. And we're live.
That was close.
You really even see it anyways. You know, I'm going to have different backgrounds. This right now, it's just, let's just get there. There's nothing here right now, bare bones like before. So if you are watching, I apologize, but I will probably have the green screen back and some images, a little bit better lighting, all of that.
Special effects.
I did hire a crew. They'll be in here next week getting things done. But yeah, who's talking crap about the Suns? Is that really happening? I mean, I've been back on Twitter ever since you posted that picture of me sleeping. I'm back on it now. So I'm addicted again because I got to see how I looked. And then all of a sudden I'm back on Twitter. I guess that's the thing, right? We're going to be talked about, but we got to back it up. And you do bookmark, which is fun. I never do that.
I'm absolutely a bookmarker. I'm not a big shit talker. For those who have listened and watched the podcast for the almost 4 years that we've been doing it, I don't think I'm a shit talker. I tell it how I see it, good, bad, or indifferent. If you have a different opinion, that's okay as well. I really don't care because your opinion is yours and mine is mine. I like to defend the Suns to a certain extent and players on the Suns, but at the same time, you got to stay low key. Because the moment you start to, kind of puff that chest out a little bit and get excited, the Suns will humble you. And if there's anything that we've learned as members of the Phoenix Suns fan base, that is what occurs time and time again, is every time you start to get a little happy, a little proud, a little excited, something happens. And that's one of those things that we are preparing ourselves for as we get ready for the 2023-2024 NBA season. This is a season in which the Phoenix Suns have the opportunity to be the best team in the NBA record-wise. This is a season in the Phoenix Suns that could equate to the first ever championship. It's on paper, right? But now they have to go out there. Now they have to play the games. And that's what we're doing on this pod. We're gonna talk a little bit about the back end of the Eastern Conference because we didn't finish that last time. And then we're going to go through the Western Conference and just talk about kind of some of the teams that have gotten better, gotten worse, stayed the same, and where do we think that they're going to finish, just so we can have it out there in the universe. And again, if you don't agree with us, oh well, that's your opinion. It's not mine.
There's nothing to agree with.
Ever.
No, not with this pod. Doesn't matter.
Fuck you, man. You don't know what you're talking about.
Last time we started the pod, you were like, how much research did you do? And I was like, an hour. And you were like, I didn't do any. So I didn't do any for the Western Conference. I did a little bit for the East. But that's why this doesn't really matter.
Well, there's a couple things. One, I feel like I know the Western Conference better than the Eastern Conference. And two,
true.
I continue to have call-offs at work. So every time I have an opportunity to sit down and do some research, I'm at work expediting food. I'm hoping my team gets better or I write them up until they don't work there anymore.
Today, when I'm like, the pod's at 8, and I work till about 5:36.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here we go. I mean, it just reminds me of during the season, the games and all of that. But I'm like, I'm ready, man. Different mindset this year. We're going to kill it, John. I'm excited. That's why these pods are kind of a struggle to get through because I'm just excited for the post-game pods.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I'm thinking the same thing. I miss doing the post game pods, and it's funny because by the end of the season, after you've done 82 post game podcasts plus a playoff run, you're a little tired. Just like, dude, every Tuesday, every Friday, back to backs, yada yada. It can be taxing at times. But right now, mid-September, God, I'm so amped. I'm so excited to watch this team. I'm so excited for Media Day, which is October 2nd, which is a Monday upcoming. We're a couple Mondays out from Media Day. Training camp starts the next day. First preseason game is October 8th. First game of the season is October 24th. Like, we are right there at the precipice of the start of this season. And, if you are new to the podcast, welcome to the Suns Jam Session podcast, the original podcast, post-game podcast, and shooting the shit about the Phoenix Suns since 2019. You can follow me at Darth Voida on Twitter. You can follow Matthew
at Matthew Lucy
on Twitter, and you can follow the show at Suns Jam on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all those fun places. And yes, I'm going to continue to call it Twitter. I know there's a lot of people who call it X, or the joke is kind of run out, right? Like X or Twitter or whatever the fuck is it called? Is it called a skeet, a zeet, a fucking an X tweet? I don't know. I'm just gonna stick with what I know and call it a Twitter tweet or whatever.
It's the same though, too. Same thing. It has not changed, has it? It's exactly the same as Twitter. It's the same thing. Okay. Yeah, because I feel like every time things change with Elon Musk and this whole Twitter thing, everyone's worried like, oh, this might be the last day. But I just went on and it's like, it's the same exact thing. I haven't been on there for like a year. It seemed like
it's the same thing, but like more assholes are unmuted and being assholes. And that's just what kind of Twitters are at, and Twitters will be. So pop them if you got them, Suns fans. I'm going to be popping open a delicious Four Peaks Wow Wheat. It's really nice. It's citrusy. Delicious. It's got some good alcohol by volume. Matthew, I assume that you are drinking probably vodka straight is my guess, right out of the, yep. There you go.
Right out of the horse's dick. Right
vodka
here.
Straight. There you go. Pop them if you got them. And, Western Conference preview time. We got to get to know the competition. But before I get into the Western Conference and do some housekeeping notes, before I finish the Eastern Conference, I do have a couple questions for Matthew.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Matthew, I got to ask, and this is something that I do want to talk about with Suns Geek. He is in the chat. It's something we saw on Twitter the other day, and he said, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this next time you have an opportunity. So Suns Geek, hit me up, man. We'll record a video about this because it has to do with the Phoenix Suns. Therefore, you have to make a video about it. But at Usher NBA, Brett Usher on NBA, put hashtag Valley Boys Kelly Oubre was the best Kelly Oubre. He's never gotten enough credit for his role in changing the culture in Phoenix. Matthew, I got to ask, do you think that's accurate?
I don't know. Okay, so there's one thing with Kelly Oubre when he did depart. When him and Rubio did leave, there was that culture thing of like, hey, we have these guys here. But you ever notice like when Kelly Oubre was in pictures with DA, there was never Booker there, right? It was always them to the pop-up tent. Booker was never there. This is Booker's team, right? So I think back in the day when he was on the team, it was basically him, DA, and just like, it was a party, right? Yeah. Booker was like, I just want to win. And these guys are not, when Booker would talk about like players not knowing the plays coming out of a timeout, you kind of figured those were guys like Kelly Oubre, right? Or maybe DeAndre Ayton. So things had to change. Kelly Oubre was amazing. On the photo shoot, that sucked because he was in the Valley jersey and then he left right after, was traded.
2 days later.
But it's crazy to go back in time and just realize like people had a hard time with that trade for Chris Paul.
100%.
Yeah, we just thought like, hey, look what we had with him here, but we knew that winning was a priority, and that's why getting a guy like Chris Paul, which is a Booker guy, here was the right thing to do. But I don't miss him.
But to Brett Usher's point, do you feel like he's got enough credit in his role changing the culture in Phoenix? Because that's what he's saying. He's never gotten enough credit.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I don't
Why?
think so. Because I think we forget about him.
Do we though?
Yeah, I think so. The thing is, like, if you see Kelly Oubre, he's out there. He just signed. Who did he just sign with?
Sixers.
The Sixers. No, none of the Suns fans wanted him back, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't that thing of like, hey, we got to get him back because of what he did for this franchise. It was just like, yeah, it was a good time, but no one really talks about him changing the culture as much anymore.
See, I feel the exact opposite. And I don't know what else we have to do, like build a statue in front of Footprint Center to honor what Kelly Oubre did to honor or to change the culture. I think we all acknowledged it as it was happening. You know, he was blowing the kisses, he was doing the push-ups, he was hitting buzzer beaters, he was a black hole on offense, he was doing all of these things simultaneously. Valley Boys came to fruition in part, and the Valley jersey concepts came to fruition in part because of who and what he was. When it came time to unveil those, as you mentioned, he was a part of those photo shoots. He was the guy. It wasn't Devin Booker wearing the Valley jersey to unveil that concept. It was Kelly Oubre. And I think that, yeah, he was traded for Chris Paul along with Ricky Rubio, which says something about who and what he was. And I think that as an organization, as a fan base, we've appreciated him. Like, I don't know what else we're supposed to do to, again, as Brett said it, give him enough credit for his role in changing the culture in Phoenix. I don't know what else we're supposed to do. We talk about it. Every time Kelly Oubre's name is brought up, we mention how fun it was to watch him play, how, the pros and the cons, but that he brought the swag and he brought something different to Phoenix and something that we hadn't seen in quite some time. And it truly did change the culture. But what else are we supposed to do? Like, every time Kelly Oubre becomes available, I don't want him on the team because, again, I don't feel like he fits what the culture has become. But that doesn't say that I don't respect and honor what he did. I think it's an interesting point to say that we don't honor him enough. It's like, and today we're retiring Sean Marion, Amari Stoudemire, and like a season and a half of Kelly Oubre. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, the thing that hurt him big was the bubble where he didn't play. Like, I kind of go back to that sometimes. And like, if he were to play, and I know we had to go 8-0, we missed it by a hair, which is just a missed shot. Even if he were to play in that bubble run, he probably would have still been traded. But that kind of like, he kind of lost a little bit of respect, I feel like, when he did
by not playing in the bubble, right?
He had the
meniscus injury.
He had the injury, but he was able to play. He just didn't want to because of the contract situation. But that was kind of a negative, I thought.
Yeah, again, I think that we've given him enough credit. As Hamo says in the chat, just move on, people. I don't know why every time his name comes up, everyone's just like, dude, we didn't.
Did they want him? Like, even when he signed with the Sixers, where people were like, hey, we should have got Oubre? I didn't see that. So
no, not really. But again, this is somebody on Twitter who's just like, it was just an interesting one that caught my eye. It was in kind of one of our group chats that Kelly Oubre with Phoenix was the best Kelly Oubre. I don't disagree with that. But if that was the best Kelly Oubre, how good is he? Anyways, one other thing I want to talk about before we talk about Eastern Conference teams, and then the Western Conference. Have you seen those Bol Bol highlight videos that are out right now of him? Like,
I have not. No.
Oh man.
Oh, is it? Is he? What's he doing? Is it like a run he's on or something?
I should have downloaded the video. He's like hitting threes, and he's doing some a couple blocks. Running the fast break with nobody guarding him.
Who's he playing with? Is it just like
a bunch of busters?
Okay. No, I didn't see those. And I said, I've been on Twitter. I haven't seen any Bol Bol stuff, even though I did put out that article.
I was about to
Bol Bol stuff on YouTube.
I mean, you just wrote the piece for Brightside about the Bol Bol season preview. And then this was dropped, I think, at the NBA Central on Twitter's the one who kind of posted the highlights. Mook in the chat says he's looking amazing.
Cool.
I'm not overly excited about Bol Bol. Again, these are those things that happen this time of year where we start to see, it's like Ben Simmons hitting a jumper. Everyone's like, oh shit, he's got his shot back. Like, this is Bol Bol playing 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 against guys who are clearly not as talented as he is. And my thing with Bol Bol is, and like, I retweeted it and I pretty much said, hey, this guy's looking great for the 10th guy on the team, 10th guy on the roster. Because that's where I think Bol Bol needs to end up. And I'm starting to see people commenting, this guy breaks the rotation, the team's winning the championship. It's like, dude, Bol Bol is literally the worst perimeter defender in the league last year. So cool. He can hit some fucking jumpers with nobody guarding him. Sorry. Until I see it on the court within the confines of this offense and defense, Bol Bol is just, he's a couple sprinkles on top of a cupcake right now. The Suns' entire team is the cupcake, and he's a couple sprinkles. He is not nearly as dominant as people are saying. They're like, this could be his breakout year. Yeah, his 5th season. Like, this guy doesn't want to fucking play basketball. He's tall. He's 7'5". He's like, well, my dad played basketball. I guess I will. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will prove me wrong. But until he proves me wrong, I'm not impressed. And I will continue to watch those videos and be like, cool, man. I want to see that on the court. I like that core foundational skill set is there, but show me with consistency when there's NBA defenders pushing him off of his spot, hitting him right in those hips and moving him away from where he wants to be. Show me then.
Yeah, there's so many players we root for now where you think they can beat all-stars. Like DeAndre, like I kind of like referenced that Alex Len reminded me a little bit of Bol Bol just because of the way he kind of shrinks in the paint.
Yes.
The fun part this year is just that he has kind of the potential, and it's fun because he's on a championship contending team now that expects a lot out of all these players. So if he's not living up to his expectations, which is just coming in and being consistent a little bit and learning from the veterans and improving on his game and finding out what he does best and just being really good at that, then he might be traded, he might be let go, whatever. But he has a lot of expectations on this team right now. And I think that it's just so hard with the guy. Yeah, like you said, his 5th season, 23 years old. And like you said, doesn't really seem like he wants to play basketball. But that's the best thing about sports is these guys can turn it around just like that. Like, remember Markkanen? Like, not the same game, but Markkanen was just trash. He fucking sucked. And then he went to Utah, a team that was not a championship contending team, made them into something. So things do happen. That's why when he comes on a team and every team wants him, every fan base wants him, because they want this guy to actually excel at all the things that he's trying to do on the court, because it's so awesome because he's 7'2". And plus, like, it opens up a lot. And I just think he has a couple more years, and then we'll figure out. And he only has a 1-year deal with the Suns, but he has a couple more years, and we'll figure out what he's going to be in the NBA. I still just think it's kind of too early to say he's shit. So, but like you said, he's the sprinkles on the cupcake. He's just fun to have on this team right now. There's nothing bad about.
I don't
you know
disagree
what I mean?
with
So
that.
it's kind of cool. I'm excited. I think early in the season, he's not going to get any minutes or anything. It's going to be garbage minutes, but
he's going to get a lot of
garbage minutes with his team. Trust me.
Let's hope. And again, I'm with you on all accounts. Like, I want him to be successful. There's no one on this team that I think that I'm actively rooting against. It's just not how I operate unless there's certain players coming. Like, if we sign Dylan Brooks, I'd be like, dude, please suck. But like, between as I'm going through the roster, and perhaps I'm just kind of in cynical mode right now. I'm starting to, draw my lines in the sand and take a look at our roster and really kind of put forth my expectations. It's a series that we're doing on brightsideofthesun.com. So if you have an opportunity, head over to the website and read what, both myself and our writing team has put together in our Suns player previews. And I just wrote one a couple days ago. It came out yesterday, and I actually wrote it on Udoka Azubuike's birthday, which was 2 days ago, it was Sunday, about how I just think he's going to be bad, man. Like, I don't understand that signing. I loved Trey Jameson so much more, who played for the Summer Suns, than who Udoka is. I just think that he's not conditioned right. I don't think that he's ever really shown consistency on the court. He's really big. He's 280 pounds. And then you have like the opposite of him is Bol Bol, who's like super skinny and also injury prone, and also somebody who has a hard time staying on the court because he's just a tweener. He's too long to be somebody who can be a quality wing defender on the perimeter, and he's shown that. And he's too weak on the interior because people just push him off his spots because of his center of gravity. So I'm not trying to be actively negative about members of this team, but I'm trying to be real, because one thing that I realized as I wrote for Brightside this week was, there's 4 guys from last year's squad who aren't signed. Like, nobody signed them. Nobody signed Terrence Ross. Nobody signed TJ Warren. Nobody signed Campaign, who was with the Spurs, but was let go. And nobody signed Bismack Biyombo. So that is like 26% of your roster from last year. Nobody signed. And we're sitting there last year and we're like, okay, yeah, there's some depth issues, but I think that overall this team is really solid. These are 4 guys that no one, they don't want as a part of their organizations for differing reasons. So as I look at this year's squad, I'm kind of wondering that same thing. Do we really possess the depth that we think we do? Or are we just hopeful that people like Bol Bol will pan out?
Yeah, I don't think the whole Bol Bol thing, like panning out, that's not a thing. I think it kind of shows that, a team with Devin Booker on it and Chris Paul last year can push these other guys to play to extreme levels. They're not signed yet. So obviously these are guys that just aren't seen as guys that can help another team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think our depth is even better. So I agree. Yeah. So that shows that, these guys that are going to be better on our team are going to be better than what we had last year. I think just because of, like I said, if Bol Bol can have like that veteran leadership where he seems like he might want to take in some knowledge. All the other guys,
but didn't he have that in Denver with Jokic and Jamal Murray? Like it's been there. It's been there for him.
Yeah, but that was like what, 2 years with them, and was it 2 years with Denver or 3 years? 3 years with Denver.
I think it was 3 years with Denver, then 1 with Orlando.
Yeah, I don't know.
And on Orlando, in a team that is letting everybody play because they're not very good, he couldn't. He started off strong, he faded away. So again, that's my cynicism coming out when I see these highlights and I see everyone getting so excited that Bol Bol's fucking blocking, Matthew Lissy at the Y. Like, I'm just like, hey, just, temper your expectations, everybody, because we do this as fans. We get so excited because we see one good highlight. We're like, this is it. The guy's made the jump. He's now, it's like, dude, once you get in there with NBA players, it's such a physical game. It takes one sharp elbow from Paulo Banchero in his rib cage, and the guy's out for 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think a guy like Bol Bol, though, he seems like he would want to absorb some information and some knowledge from these guys that would help his
dad's Manute Bol. He grew up around the game. What information does he feel like he really needs? Who can he relate to on this team? No one.
Who can reach him?
I
don't know.
That's the question. Is it the leadership of DeAndre Ayton?
No. So who's going to get reached first? Who's going to do the reach around first? Are they going to reach around to DA first or Bol Bol? Who do you think will improve the most from last season? Just from like the veterans we have on this team that can push, especially Frank Vogel.
I think DA, because DA is going to have the opportunity to do so. I think that he's reset his mind. He went away. He played for the Bahamas. He really had an opportunity to step away from this organization and be the guy on a team and feel that. And he's coming back with a different mindset, hopefully a more mature mindset. If his basketball IQ can match up with his basketball ability, knowing that he has the talent around him, I think his upside is so much higher than Bol Bol. Everyone thinks that Bol Bol, because you can play with him on 2K as the 4, is amazing, but it's like reality, rubber meets the road, and I don't see it happening with Bol Bol. I think he's somebody who can contribute at times during the season, but we shouldn't get those expectations so high. And again, I hope I'm wrong and he's somebody who does amazing, and it's like, dude, he's fighting for a fifth starter spot, or he's one of the first guys coming off the bench. I just don't see it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just fandom. It's just, oh, look at these shots. Are they really saying like, hey, we're a championship contender because of Bol Bol? I think it's just a thing of like, hey, we're Suns fans. We're excited for this guy to be here, and look at him. Like, he can improve from what he did last year. And honestly, like, his box score stuff wasn't too bad last year. I mean, the shooting percentages were shit, but like, I know you said the perimeter defense, but there's a lot of guys out there where the defense just takes a while. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're playing with Kevin Durant, man. I think that's just something different than Jokic. Jokic, of course, was the best player last year, but Kevin Durant just has so much more knowledge. If he can spread that, him and Devin Booker, I just think he can really learn from those guys. And he just seems like a guy. I can see on his face body language. And I know you said that he doesn't seem like he wants to play basketball, but there might be something from last year going into this year where he wants to improve. And I'm excited to see that. I'm not saying he's better than DA. I can just see him absorbing information and try to work on that and improve into his game. I think DA is who he is and wants to be his own player, right? This guy just needs the help, needs the push. And I think those guys can do it.
I hope that they want to do it. That's the challenge. Like, do they want to?
True.
Now I did download the video. So do you want to watch the video?
Let's do it.
Here we go, Jamsters. Here he goes, bringing the ball up way too high. It's blocking some 6'6" guy. Finger roll.
Oh, this is like not even what I imagined at all.
Yeah.
Well, come on. They're
Savage
just like laying
block.
stuff up for him.
Well, yeah.
3-on-3?
Yeah, it looks like 3-on-3. All right, shooting corner 3, net. All right, pull up 3, net. So again, good looking shot. Fast break dunk. Steal, fast break, travel. And then here's one more runner.
That's crazy.
So there you go.
Well, no, I don't like that at all. I mean, if
See?
you're watching that and you're saying like, hey, that's improvement, that's just, what is that, dude? That's like, what?
There you go.
Okay,
and again,
maybe that's why I didn't see it, because I had a higher expectation than that.
You know, at the Dunk Central
Bol
on Twitter
baby.
said Bol Bol breakout season, and people are like, "Yeah, great year to be a Suns fan. This is it." Yeah, it's just I don't know. We'll see. And here we go again. And we're sorry, Suns fans. We're here to do we need to finish doing the Eastern Conference. We didn't get to finish that because we talked too much Suns at the beginning of last podcast. Here we are. We're 25 minutes in, and we've talked about Bol Bol and have we honored Kelly Oubre enough. So again, Suns fans. So is there anything do you want to talk about the Eastern Conference, or should we go right into the Western Conference?
Let's do the West, because I feel like we'll spend some time. We're just going to do like the top 8, the playoff teams from last year. Is that what we're going to do?
Let's start from the bottom. Does that sound good?
Sure, man. I love the Western Conference. Let's do them all.
The first team that we want to talk about, the last seed in the Western Conference last year, the San Antonio Spurs. Last year, they were 22-60. They have obviously some major changes to their lineup this year. First overall pick, Victor Wembanyama, is now a San Antonio Spur. They've signed Trey Jones, who is somebody who I wanted the Suns to potentially pick up as a free agent target. They signed him back. They also brought in Reggie Bullock as a part of that 3-team trade that involved Grant Williams going to Dallas from Boston. They ended up with Reggie Bullock in that deal. So you take a look at their overall lineup, the 2023 San Antonio Spurs. Okay, 2-way contracts with Serge Jabari Rice and Dominic Barlow. They got Charles Bassey, Kem Birch, who's been around for quite some time. Reggie, as I mentioned, Julian Champagne is back. Zach Collins from Gonzaga is there. Devontae Graham, Keldon Johnson. That's probably going to be their backcourt. Victor Wembanyama, Devin Vassell. So this team won 22 games last season, Matthew. Did this team get better, get worse, or just kind of stay the same?
Yeah, it's basically the same. You can say better because of Victor, but the thing is like Victor's probably not going to get a whole lot of minutes. I don't over/under on 60 games this year. Right. I mean, if he were to be a Rookie of the Year candidate, he would have to play 60 games. Right. Because
I think it's 60 or 65. I think
that's 65.
I think it's 65 is the new rule in the NBA.
Okay. Well, you'd have to at least play that. But does that even matter? Does Rookie of the Year even matter? I don't know if that's Popovich's is like everyone talks about him resting, but I don't see Popovich. I had the hardest time saying his name earlier. I don't know why he would actually want to rest Victor this season, right? It doesn't seem like a thing that he would want to do. You know what I mean? But what's the point? I guess just build for the future, get a better draft pick for next year, continue to build by year 3, year 4. You have him coming out, trying to play all 82 games. Or is it because of like the way Zion came out, just like explosive, and now he's hurt and not even fucking playing anymore? You worried about that with Victor? That's of course the exciting part of this. But yeah, I think they're exactly the same, right? They didn't improve at all.
Yeah, I mean, they did improve with Victor, and I think that's big, and you said that, and I think that that's 100% correct. But outside of that, there weren't many adjustments. They didn't really go after any big fish in free agency, and this is a team that has plenty of cap room. They've spent $138 million in cap, and a lot of what they did is they brought people on simply to fill out that cap sheet to avoid any minimums. So they really didn't go above and beyond in trying to score a big free agent to put with Victor Wembanyama. I think this is a team that's flat to last year, and I can see them being the 14th or 15th seed in the conference again for a couple reasons that you mentioned. I think that Victor will be on a pitch count, if you will. Doesn't seem like a Greg Popovich thing to do, but I do think that this season is purely getting him acclimated to the NBA, trying to get him some opportunity to grow his game, knowing that he's going to be the highlight that opposing teams are going to try to come and prove their point against. He too, as we talked about Bol Bol, Victor Wembanyama is another one of those guys who will be pushed around on the defensive end due to his how tall he is. He's got that center of gravity there. If you put your hip into like his thigh, you're going to move him off his spot. And that being said, due to his athleticism, he'll have the ability to recover defensively and make some amazing block shots. But I think overall, the talent around him isn't there. He's not somebody who's going to come in and just carry this team to a playoff spot. I honestly don't believe that. I think that what the Spurs are doing is they're biding their time, as you mentioned, maybe going after another quality draft pick next season and or utilizing that asset to go get a big fish when that opportunity presents itself. It wasn't this offseason. It might be something the next offseason or even 2 years from now. But I think they stayed the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. And I think it's smart. Just take your time. Why rush it? Like, you're not going to win a title within the first 5 years with this dude. Take your time. Don't rush it with him.
100%, and build around him the proper way versus like, kind of like Luka. One of the challenges that Dallas has had is they have been trying to throw things around and try to land those big fish to match with Luka, and it hasn't been successful. They brought Kristaps Porzingis, his second year after a decent rookie year for Luka. They're like, all right, we'll bring in Kristaps. That'll work. Well, that didn't work. 3 years later, okay, Kyrie. Like, they're trying these different things, and all you're doing is you're burning assets in an effort to try to win now. Where if you take your time and develop a roster organically, kind of like what the Suns did. The Suns developed this roster organically to where then they could go get that person who would fit perfectly with somebody who's like a Devin Booker who can play with anybody.
You got to know his game too. I mean, obviously he's talking shoot. He can play point, you know what I mean? But in the NBA, we'll see how it looks. Then you can build around that to see what he's really, really fucking good at. And then it's just like, what kind of guys can you fall around him and just make it make sense.
The first game we play against the Spurs is the fourth game of the season, I believe. We have our first 2 games on the road, Golden State, Halloween. Lakers. And then, is that right? Is it Halloween?
Yeah, because we were so pissed. We're like, of course it's the Spurs.
Yeah, no shit. And then the home openers against the Jazz. So I think actually November 2nd will be the first game that I actually will go and cover for Brightside to go see Wembanyama. Next up, the Houston Rockets, who also finished with a 22-60 record. They've made some changes to their roster. Jock Landale is now over there in Houston. Boban Marjanovic is there. But you also have Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks will be their backcourt. So you take a look at a team that also drafted Amen Thompson. They have Kevin Porter Jr., Aaron Holiday's there. They got Jalen Green. Those are all their guards. And then they bring in Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks. So I ask you, and then of course they have, is it Jabari Smith Jr. who's like punching ladies?
I was like, is it Jabari Smith, Jeff Green, or Kevin Porter? I don't think it's Kevin Porter.
I feel like it's mixed Kevin
up
Porter
because they're like, we're all drafted.
Let us know in the chat. Who's the guy who the Rockets are now all of a sudden trying to change because he's physically abusive? Let us know in the chat. I always forget which one it is because there's like 3. There's like 4. There's 4 juniors on the team. Kevin Porter.
Is it Kevin
Thanks,
Porter?
Sunsgeek. It's Kevin Porter. So Kevin Porter Jr., fourth year kid out of SC. They're actively trying to trade him after he's going to be facing some well-deserved charges for beating up a chick. Man, don't do that shit. So what are your thoughts on the Rockets? Get better, get worse, stay the same?
I think they got better. I'm going to go out there and say maybe they're like a little sneaky pick to get it like a 10th seed this year, just because, I love Dillon Brooks still, even when he was like a WWE wrestler last year playing like just is that to
fuck
me?
Him. Fuck Dillon Brooks.
No, I wanted him on this team this year. I did. I've always been a Dillon Brooks fan. I know you hate. There's one player that is punchable face. Number 1 for John. It is this guy. But him, Fred VanVleet, I'm just saying maybe they can get on a little run here or there. Just underestimate some teams, come in there, steal some wins. And then towards the end of the year, I'm not saying they can make a big trade, but maybe they do. I don't know who would trade for Kevin Porter after what happened, but maybe they can make that big trade to get like some other kind of relevant piece here. Make the playoffs, because I think like Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks, they want to win, right? These guys are going to be punching each other. I mean, punching the other team as hard as they can every night. They might punch each other too.
Kevin Porter,
everyone's punching everybody. They might need what?
They might need Kevin Porter then.
Yeah. But I think Fred VanVleet's going to want to win too. Those 2 guys at the helm is kind of nice to have. So it's kind of like an underrated 10th seed in the West for me.
Well, so you look at this team, and their projected starting 5 is you go Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green are your backcourt, Dillon Brooks is your small forward, Jabari Smith Jr. as your power forward, and Şengün as your center. Backing them up, Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, the rookie out of Villanova, Jock Landale. This team definitely got better.
Yeah.
From a strategic standpoint, you have to kind of question what they're doing because, again, you have a lot of young guard talent that you're trying to develop or you've been trying to develop, and players like Jalen Green, right? Entering his 3rd year, somebody who is a great basketball talent, but just kind of lost in his role, if you will. Is he a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? But at the same time, I really think that at bringing in Fred VanVleet and bringing in Dylan Brooks was the right move for this team because it adds some toughness. It has a fuck shit up guy in Dylan Brooks. And with the talent around that, that's something that's good foundationally that could either teach those young players, or if those young players don't fall in line, you trade them and garner more assets for them, because you are paying a lot of guys some good money to be on this team. Jock Landale's a great fit on this team. You have some fuck shit up guys. You have some hustle. We know how tough Houston can be, but now I feel like they could be dangerous. And I think that you're right. This is a team that definitely got better and has a shot at the play-in. Again, 14th seed last year. I see them being better. I definitely do.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the standings and I'm like, Portland, there's probably a trade. We'll talk about them next.
Yep.
OKC, who knows with that team with injuries. So they might sneak in there. They have a chance.
Next up, as you mentioned, the Portland Trailblazers, a team that obviously is kind of stuck in the mire, if you will, relative to Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
He's somebody who's expressed finally, after all the years of him not saying anything, he's finally said, I want to be traded. It's a team that I don't feel really did much this past offseason besides drafting Scoot Henderson. I think that was a fantastic move by them. But outside of that, I just don't necessarily know if they've done what they've needed to do to correct the situation, because they're being kind of held hostage. It's a team that I think gets worse. This is a team that goes down worse than they did last season. They finished 33-49. So again, 14 and 15 seed won 22 games. The 13th seed in the Portland Trailblazers, they won 33 games. They won 11 more games than the 14th and 15th seed last season. I think that falls pretty drastically. And this is a team that will be held hostage by Dame Lillard. Dame might not play. They might trade. We don't know what to expect from this team.
Now, they made that trade with Miami. I keep seeing things about Pat Riley saying they're not going to get a better offer, Portland, for Damian Lillard. So if he does go to Miami and Portland can get some guys back, you got Scoot Henderson, you even got Anthony Simons, who he did improve statistically last year, but he kind of fell off a little bit just because I feel like he's kind of held back from a Damian Lillard type player. I think this team actually will look good on paper if they can make that trade and they can get some assets from Miami. They can make a push too. And it's one of those things where it's like Damian Lillard's been there for forever. He's gone. Everyone's scared if he leaves, like it's just going to fall apart. But they can't pick up like kind of maybe like Utah did in a way where Utah was just better after making the big trades. Everyone thought they would suck and just tank. Maybe there's just a little bit more juice back on that team. I know Lillard's a top point guard in the NBA still, but I just think they needed that change, and it might be something that can spark that team, and they can head into this season not really knowing who the hell they are yet. But a few months in, maybe they'll start surprising people and can make a playoff push too. I almost said 2 as well, and maybe 9th seed, maybe 10th seed. But I'm excited for Portland to get rid of Lillard. It's one of those players. I always do this thing where it's just you're so sick of seeing the same player on the same team. Time to move on. So I'm excited. I think Miami will be able to get him over there.
But somehow. I don't think that Miami has, like, if I'm Portland.
They don't, but I think they just have to do it, right?
Yeah, at some point, maybe. I don't know. Again, who says you have to trade with Miami besides Dame? Yeah, nobody. This isn't a Bradley Beal situation.
I know, but then if it was Phoenix, we wouldn't get him. Like, just like Kevin Durant. Of course, we couldn't pull it off before the season.
But that's
every other star and every other team gets this stuff done other than Phoenix. So that's why I just think it's going to happen, because players just get what they want unless you're going to go to Phoenix.
But I don't think that Miami has the viable assets that is acceptable on the Portland side. And don't get me wrong, like for Portland, you have to understand that Damian Lillard, he's somebody who is going to be or just turned 33 years old, right? Like he's not prime Dame. He can still shoot, and it takes a long time to get rid of the shooting. So you have to understand that. So as you are trying to make that deal, that's why Miami hasn't budged on some things, because they're like, listen, we're getting Dame, but we're not getting Dame like 5 years ago Dame. Like we're getting dinged up Dame time. So we're not going to give you the house. We're not going to give you all of our draft picks and Tyler Hero and whatever it takes to make this happen. And Portland at some point is going to realize, like, listen, we have a serious problem on our hands, and we're going to have to get the 3 quarters, 2 dimes and a nickel for $1 on this one, for a Dame dollar, and hope that it works out for them ultimately. I just don't know how stubborn and how long they want to wait. I don't know if their general manager is going to do the same thing that Daryl Morey did, essentially with like Ben Simmons, who's like, I'm not going to play. And he's like, okay, then don't. And he waited and he turned it into James Harden eventually. Do they have that patience? Will Dame not play? There's too many question marks around this team. And because of those question marks, despite the cool jerseys that they always wear, they're going to be a team that's going to end up being the cellar dweller of this conference. And again, one of the things that's positive for them, they do have Scoot Henderson. Going into next year's draft, they can get another good player to pair with him. And then perhaps at the trade deadline this year or next offseason, that's when they trade Dame. Dame has become this season's Kevin Durant, right?
Yeah, he has. And I'm excited. If they can get Bam and Tyler Hero on that team, like if I'm Portland, I do that. Like you said, Dame is older now, man.
Yeah.
I know, like, if they got 2 stars over there in Miami with Butler and Lillard, they'll win, of course. They'll make the playoffs. They'll probably make the Eastern Conference Finals again. Who knows? They can make a push like that. But I would be excited Portland to get all those names on this team with Scoot and Anthony Simons, and just you have like a nice, decent starting lineup, and then you can build from there. I'm not saying that Bam would want to play there. Who knows? Like, I feel like if Bam was traded, he would be the player like, I don't want to be here, and kind of just want to get out of there the next season. But I would get what I can right now.
But like Miami doesn't want to give up Bam. They don't want to give up anything good. That's the other side of this. That's why this is a stalemate, and we've talked way too much about Portland. Next up on the list, a team that is quite intriguing going into next season, and that is the Utah Jazz, the Jazz Flutes, the team that we will play with our home opener, the Utah Jazz, a team that last season finished 37-45, surprised a lot of people because, again, prior to last season, they traded Rudy Gobert, they traded Donovan Mitchell, they pressed the reset button. They did ultimately what Portland should do and just say, hey, fucking blow it up. And go figure, what they blew it up for were players who played well together, played hard together, and although they didn't make the playoffs, it was kind of because they took the foot off the pedal because they wanted to, continue to improve. But Lauri Markkanen came out and was fantastic for them. They Jordan Clarkson played fantastic for him, and he's really a pain in the ass in NBA 2K. Colin Sexton played very well for them. Kelly Olynyk played well for them. Walker Kessler was an aberration. And now they've added John Collins to the mix, somebody who finally gets out of Atlanta. What do you think of Utah this season, Matthew?
Jason Sanchez, if he's talking about Utah Jazz, Utah Jazz. Was that from something? Was that Anchorman or no?
Yaz Flute is from Anchorman.
Yeah, the Yaz Flute. Okay, yes. That's what I thought. Yeah, Fred Armisen. Yeah, Jason Sanchez to say, man, middle of the pack. The surprise is over. I agree with that. I think Utah had a chance, I guess, to kind of maybe trade, maybe get a bigger name there. They did get John Collins, but that's not enough. I don't think this team got any better with John Collins.
No, not really.
It's not exciting, and they weren't exciting last year, but then they were exciting. I think Lauri will definitely. He has the possibility of being an all-star again this year, but other than that, they just didn't improve.
For those of you who didn't catch it, after our last podcast, you and I went onto the Lakers Fast Break podcast. So you can go and you can check that out on their YouTube channel. And we answered a bunch of questions about the Suns, and then they gave us the opportunity to ask them about the Lakers. And, one of the things I asked is, like, how the fuck does the NBA constantly bail out the NBA? Because their roster was dead in the fucking water last year. And Utah was one of those teams they're like, you know what? We're going to bail out the fucking Lakers because they're the ones who traded Jared Vanderbilt to the Lakers. I just didn't understand it. They didn't really have an answer. Like, oh, it worked out for us, but they got like Juan Toscano Anderson. They're the ones who got like Westbrook, and then they dished him and waived him and all that stuff. But drive me crazy, that goddamn Utah team. But you're right. This is a team that, if you were to ask me if they got better or got worse or stayed the same, I kind of think they stayed the same. They did make a bunch of additions and subtractions and whatnot, but ultimately, they signed Jordan Clarkson again. They traded Rudy Gay as a part of that John Collins deal. So if you look at their projected starting 5, it's Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, Walker Kessler. Sounds like a pretty good starting 5 there, backed up with Chris Dunn, some guy whose name I can't say, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Taylor Hendricks, Kelly Olynyk. It's a team that has potential to bite you because that's what the NBA is. It's a team that has the potential to be a play-in team, in my opinion. But ultimately, I don't know what their identity is. I don't know if they know what their identity is going to be.
I don't think so either. And I can't believe we talked about Utah this long. They're so boring. Just looking at their name, Utah Jazz.
Just looking at their fucking jerseys. It's like,
it's like, please don't get a star. Don't get a star there. Thank you for not doing anything. Thank you for getting John Collins, the one player that no one wanted.
No, like half the fucking Suns fan base wanted John Collins. And I was just like,
we
no,
wanted
guys.
anything but Ayton. That was me too. I was like, just give us John Collins then. I don't care. That was before though. That was before what? What am I talking about? This was before. What are you talking about, Matthew? Before what?
Before what? Before Ayton? BA?
before what? Oh, 2 years ago when DA was awesome.
John Collins. It's because it's because he dunked once. Everyone's like, oh shit, he can dunk. I'm like, guys, don't fall in love with the fucking highlights. Don't be a casual. All right, I'm gonna ask you this before we get into their roster. The Dallas Mavericks, a team that missed the playoffs last season, ended up being the 11th overall seed. They were 38-44 last season. I don't have the metric in front of me as to what their record was once Kyrie came over, but it wasn't good.
No.
38-44 last season. Quite simple. Did they get better? Did they get worse? Or did they stay the same this offseason, Matthew?
This one's actually tough. I think they got better. And I'm not talking about the additions. I think just having a year with Kyrie, whether or not you guys like him or not, him and Luka, if they can figure shit out, they got better. But that's all. That's the only reason. I mean, that's the only way that they can get better is if those two figure it out. But what do you think?
Well, you look at their moves. Okay, they signed Kyrie to a 3-year, $126 million contract that includes a player option at the back end of that. They re-signed Dwight Powell. They signed Seth Curry. They signed Dante Exum, Derek Jones Jr.'s, Markieff Morris just a couple days ago. They traded for Grant Williams, as mentioned before, in that 3-team trade with the Boston Celtics. And ultimately, they bring in Rashawn Holmes in a trade with the Sacramento Kings. They got Derek Lively Jr., and if you look at their projected starting five, it's Luka, it's Kyrie, it's Tim Hardaway Jr., Grant Williams, Dwight Powell. Backed up with Jaden Hardy, Seth Curry, Josh Green, Maxi Kleba, Rashawn Holmes. This team, in my opinion, Mega Giants 89, who I appreciate in the chat, and I hate your football team because what they did to the Cardinals just broke my heart 2 days ago. But he says it perfectly. Mavs got a little bit better. And what I think is where they got a little bit better was on the defensive end, obviously by bringing in somebody like Grant Williams. Now, if we're talking 7-game series stuff, no. But if we're talking night to night, Grant Williams is one of those kind of like a Draymond Green guy. Like he's undersized, but he's pesky, he's annoying, and ultimately he's going to provide some defense around a team that doesn't have really good defense. Luka, Kyrie, not good defenders. Dwight Powell, not good defender. Tim Hardaway, average defender. Grant Williams, above average defender. So again, I think the challenge with this team is they got better a little bit defensively. And they also have JaVale McGee, by the way. So a lot of former Suns on this team with Rashawn Holmes and JaVale McGee.
I thought McGee's gone now.
Is he?
Right?
I'm looking
I
at
think they just let him go.
I think you're right.
Because he was there last year. He was their starting center, and then it didn't work out.
Yeah, he didn't do shit.
I wonder why.
Yeah, shocking, huh? So it's a team that I think they got a little bit better. Yeah, Sacramento. Thank you, Ted Offensive in the chat. He is in Sacramento. A team we'll get to here shortly. I don't. They don't scare me. Do they scare you?
Yeah, they do, and it's just because I'm the guy that's like
because Luke is the best guy in the court.
Yeah, you got the best guys in the court, and Kyrie. I'm so surprised that they couldn't pull it together. No, I'm not. I'm actually not that surprised just because of the way Kyrie is.
I loved
it. They can just figure it out, but I just don't believe him. Like Kyrie's the biggest bullshit artist to play the game. Like he'll make you believe, but then you watch and it's just like, wait, well, you didn't win the game. Why? Oh, because I don't know.
There's a guy in the 4th row said something to me.
I don't know. My head's not in the game. Like there's just things that happen to him during the game, during a series. You just don't want to get into if you're a fan of the Mavs. You just don't want to ever probably see that in the future. So they're going to stick together. Mark Cuban pulled the trigger. He's going to stick with it. He's going to have those two guys, and he'll probably say, I'll never trade them or anything again going into the season. But that could be one of the first trades, Kyrie to somewhere else.
I could absolutely see that.
I could see that, but if they can pull it together, they're scary. But I don't know. I don't want to be bullshitted again. I mean, of course, I don't want them to be good, but it'd be kind of cool to see those guys have some pretty fucking phenomenal games together. But I don't think it's gonna happen.
They're going to be a great offensive team, but they're going to be they will be a offensive rating like the 6th highest offensively rated team, but they'll have like the 19th defensive rating, in my opinion. Just my thoughts.
Yeah.
We're going to have to turn this into a 2-parter, man. This is going to be Western Conference Preview Part 1.
Yeah.
So,
it's already 50 minutes. All right.
Yeah, holy shit, man. We can't just get... Again, last season, we did like division by division.
It was just, I was like, how do we do this in one pod? I'm like, no, it was...
We didn't. We did division by division. Next up, a team that made the play-in at a 40-42 record, the Oklahoma City Thunder. A team that, when you take a look at how ultimately they navigated the offseason, I think that they did well. You know, Patty Mills was kind of around the team, and they traded him away. They got Rudy Gay. They were part of that Dylan Brooks trade. So they got Patty Mills in that Dylan Brooks trade. Then they traded him for Ty Washington, Rudy Gay, and Usman Garuba. And a future second-round pick. So, again, just typical Oklahoma City stuff. They got Victor Oladipo back. They got Davis Bertans. That's where he's at now. If anyone is wondering, like, where the fuck Davis Bertans end up? He's over there in Oklahoma City. They got Case and Wallace. You take a look at their starting lineup, potentially. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander with Josh Giddey in the backcourt. Lou Dort playing small forward. Jalen Williams at power forward. And Chet Holmgren, who did not play in last season's at all, the number one pick of the 2022 NBA draft. Tell me what your thoughts are on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Did they get better? Did they get worse? Or did they stay the same?
They got better. I think they're going to be a top 4 seed this year. I really do. I think SGA is going to be MVP candidate. He's my prediction. We don't do predictions yet. A little sneak peek. He's my MVP this year. I just think he's that fucking good. Of course, when you're looking at Chet, what are you going to get? You don't know yet. He's still a rookie. He hasn't played one game yet. I like this team. It just reminds me of Sacramento in a way where it's like they stick to these guys. They continue to grow. And obviously, I think last year and the year before, you saw a little bit of improvement. Ever since CP3, you kept seeing improvement. Last year, you really did. And they're so close to like pulling through with some of these close games. They're right there. And it just reminds me of Sacramento in a way where they can pull off an incredible season by just having that continuity and just playing great with the MVP candidate in SGA. I really think they're going to be a top 4 seed this year. That's my little sneak peek prediction going into this year.
I definitely think that they are going to be better. I think they're a team that is going to be on the fringe of the play-in or avoid it altogether. The 6th seed, I think that's as high as they go because I just think that there's some really good teams in the Western Conference. But when you have a player like SGA, you can close games. And he's somebody who has the ability to get to the line, good, bad, or indifferent. And when you're in a tight game, you just go to him over and over again. And we saw that last season. We got SGA. We got the Thunder a lot at the back end of last season. Remember, we hadn't played them all season. We played them like 4 times in the last month of the season. And we got all the SGA we want to see. And I think he only played in like 2 games. And it's like, Jesus Christ, this guy is just – he's a machine. He's kind of like Harden was when Harden was effective at getting to the line. Just knows how to navigate and utilize his athletic prowess and utilize his body to get what he ultimately wants, and that's to the line, get those 3 points, slow the game down. I think this team gets better because they have Chet Holmgren. You have a number 1 overall pick. I think that they're young, they're dangerous, they don't give a shit. They kind of remind me of the Suns a few years ago when all of a sudden we came out after the bubble and we just had a different swagger about us, and we were a team that believed. I think this is a team that believes, and I think it's a bold prediction that you stated, them going number 4, but that's why it's a bold prediction. I see them being a 7/6 seed, as a couple of these teams we're going to talk about momentarily, I think, got a little bit worse, including the next team, which is the New Orleans Pelicans. New Orleans Pelicans last season ended as the number 9 seed. They were 42-40 overall. Looking at what they've accomplished this season, or off season, I should say, again, knowing that a lot of their fate ultimately lies in the hands of a man who loves a cheeseburger, and that's Zion Williamson. But they're a team that traded away Devontae Graham and got Josh Richardson. So, he's somebody who is literally played on like every fucking team.
I'm like, I swear I just saw him on 3 different rosters while doing the previews.
Yeah, he's like everywhere. He's been everywhere at least. But this is a team that ultimately they didn't do much this offseason. Do you think that they got better, got worse, or stayed the same because of that?
No. Dude, they say the same, but they're going to be terrible. They're one of the teams I think Houston will leap into the playoffs. I think they're like a bottom 3 team this year. I just don't. You can look at the roster. Hell, it looks great. Looks awesome on paper. This is one of the teams that's going to make a big trade, something, or Zion's going to be out. There's just going to be injuries. I don't see a whole lot this year. It's like a bad luck season. You can kind of see it coming. No playoffs this year for this team, I don't think.
I agree. This is a regression team for sure, in my opinion. You look at their projected starting lineup: CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, Jonas Valanciunas. We've seen this story again, and we saw how it played out. Now, again, so much of it comes down to the health of Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
And if he's in there playing, it's a damn good team. But I still think that it's not a complete team. Jose Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, Herbert Jones, Najee Marshall, Larry Nance Jr. are the backups. We've seen this. It's like the same team we played in the playoffs 2 seasons ago. And although some of these players might be getting better, some of them might be getting worse as well. And I just think that it's a team that Brandon Ingram will be traded this season. I guarantee it.
They're feeding off of Zion. Zion's not. He doesn't want to play there.
He just doesn't.
Why would they want to win when their best player, the best player in the NBA, if he actually steps foot on the floor, is gonna not want to play? Like, why would they even want to play one fucking game with that team?
I hear you. I don't.
It's over, dude. The Pelicans.
Next team, the Minnesota Timberwolves also were 42-40 last season and awful, overrated. A team that had an interesting year. If you recall, they started out very rocky. The entire Rudy Gobert, Cat dynamic wasn't working. Cat went out for quite some time. The team kind of gained some confidence. They come back. Cat was integrated. They kind of worked, played really well at the back end of the season. And then they start punching fucking walls and breaking hands and throw fits, because that's what a Cat team does, is they just kind of throw fits. And you look at how ultimately they navigated the offseason. And again, another team that I feel just didn't do too much, nothing really crazy. I mean,
no.
I'm looking at everything they did. It's like they signed Nickeil Alexander-Walker to a 2-year deal, Shake Milton to a 2-year deal, Tony Brown Jr. to a 2-year deal. If you look at all of the trades that they made in the offseason, it was one. They traded for Leonard Miller by giving up 2 second-round picks to the Spurs. So, again, it's interesting because the last few teams that we've gone through, that they're teams that are trying to break on through to the other side, really didn't do much this offseason. Why do you think that is?
Because no one wants to play there. That's why.
At any of these places? Or just
no one wants to play in Minnesota. They made their big trade last year and the big signing. And when you look at both teams, so are you talking about New Orleans? Or are you talking about
New Orleans didn't do anything. Oklahoma City really didn't do anything except Chet Holmgren's coming back, right? Dallas went and got Grant Williams. So that's a move, right? But for the most part, the Jazz are kind of holding fast. Portland didn't do shit, right?
Yeah. When I look at Minnesota, I'm like, how do you just make this Anthony Edwards team? How do you make it to where
that's the answer?
How do you? Yeah, he just has to be the face of the franchise. He's just that fucking good, and they're just taking so much away from him with all these other guys. And I cannot believe that Cat is still on the team. It's incredible. I don't know.
Cat will be traded for Brandon Ingram.
That would be awesome.
You're 100% right. I think Anthony Edwards, he showed in FIBA that he's an alpha dog. I think that Cat is one of those players that, due to his personality, wants to be the alpha dog. But he bitches and moans so much. I don't think there's a lot of respect there. And I think that this is the year that it starts to transition to truly being Ant-Man's team. And there's going to be some growing pains there, and that's where Minnesota's going to struggle. So if you ask me if they got better, got worse, or stayed the same, this is another team that I think got worse. in my opinion, by staying the same. So when we talk about Oklahoma City Thunder and they're going to jump up, right? The Houston Rockets, they could potentially jump up because of some of their talent and some of their acquisitions, because they made a couple moves and are trying to make an impact. Minnesota, I feel, is going the other way by staying the same. And that's going to be kind of the growing pains. They're going to see what they got another year. And, mid-season, if they're not cutting it, I think that they realize, like, Cat ain't the answer. Gobert with Ant, yeah, we've kind of seen that same combination when Gobert played with Utah with Donovan Mitchell, but Ant-Man's so much more of an alpha than Donovan Mitchell is, in my opinion. And I think that that's what Minnesota ultimately will want to bank on versus banking on Cat with Ant.
You can't grow with this team, though. There's no growth at all. Like, this is who they are. And you know what? I even said, like, I feel like Gobert would replace Cat eventually in time, and I can see him doing that still. But you can't grow with this team right now with Cat on the team and Anthony Edwards. You just can't. Those two did not mesh. You got to do what you did with Booker. Like, you just have to. Anthony Edwards, this is your team. If you restart, then you restart.
Yep.
And just get rid of all these fuckers that are just messing up his game, dude.
Full commit. And Cats, they're out, in my opinion. It's a team that when they acquired Rudy Gobert, they gave up so much draft capital. It didn't make any sense. Cats, you're out. I mean, Cat is ultimately, in my opinion, how you make like a Miami trade work. You involve Minnesota somehow to where Portland can get Cat, right? And then, Dame ends up in Miami, and then draft picks from both teams end up in Minnesota. And then Minnesota has now rebuilt their foundation and goes, you know what? This year, we're going to fucking suck. And we're going to Ant, take it easy. We want you to be the star that you are, but we also want you to take it easy. We're going to tank a little bit. We're going to try to see if we can build this team up. We're going to get you some quality people by utilizing either draft picks or by using the draft itself. But
he knows they're not going to win with this team. Like, he shouldn't have an issue with it. He knows they're not going to win, so let them work their magic, I guess. I don't know if you could do that with their front office, but can't, I guess.
Well, that's going to be it for the Western Conference preview, part 1 here on the Suns Jam Session podcast. You're definitely going to want to tune in this time next Tuesday when we preview part 2, which will include the Los Angeles Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Phoenix Suns, the Sacramento Kings, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Denver Nuggets. Which one of those teams is going to fall out of contention, as Matthew thinks that the Oklahoma City Thunder will take their spot as the 4 seed, which is what the Suns were in last year. So you're definitely going to want to tune in next week for that. And Jamsters, we're both itching to come back and bring you more content. It's just around the corner. We got a couple more weeks where we're coming to you Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Arizona time. And then once October 4th hits, those are the post-game podcasts for preseason games. Buckle up, Buckaroos. It's going to be a I need to make that a drop.
That has to be.
That's got to be a drop.
Think of a reason to have it. We got to put that on the pod.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, here we go. Buckle up, Buckaroos, and just go from there. So, but again, we appreciate everybody who's taking some time out of their day. If you're watching along live on YouTube, thank you to everyone who's been commenting on the chat. It's good to see some new names. It's good to see some of our old games. It's good to see Creepy Crawly popping in and saying vagina, Australian for pussy. So we appreciate that. We appreciate anyone who likes, subscribes, rates, reviews, hops on Apple Podcasts, gives us a 5-star review, writes a little something. We'll read it right here on the podcast. This is the place to be, guys. We have an exciting season coming up.
Get ready. John's gonna be live at the games, dude. Come on.
It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be some great audio in the background.
All right, well, I gotta go. Don't end the podcast though, John. Don't end the stream.
Oops, I'll never forget.
Oh, I guess we're done.
I was like, okay.
I was so excited for that pod. I got all my notes and everything. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fucking own this.
I was thinking about that today. So I was looking at that Brett Usher tweet when he talked about Kelly Oubre never getting his credit for his role in changing the culture in Phoenix. And I snipped it and I put it in my Word doc notes. I'm like, I kind of miss taking notes. It's just around the corner, man.
Can't wait.
Just around the corner. So again, Jamsters, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. You can follow Matthew.
I'm at Matthew Lissy.
And you can read all of our writing at brightsideofthesun.com. So until this time next week, everybody, have a good one. And Matthew?
Yeah, go home and love your family.
Take care.